Given the duty to introduce our today's speaker. Friends, informal webinar team has been conducting the sessions on the legal topics as well as other contemporary topics during this lockdown period. And today also we continue with one of the very important sessions. Today, our keynote speaker is a legal luminary and is a distinguished guest. So today's speaker is Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji, Senior Advocate and Advocate General, Haryana. Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji belongs to Amritsar, did his schooling at Amritsar, and further passed his graduation from DAV College, Chandigarh. In the year 1982, he was enrolled as an advocate to Punjab and Haryana High Court, and since then he has been practicing in Punjab and Haryana High Court. In his initial days, he joined the office of Shri D.V. Sehgal ji, the then senior advocate, who later on was elevated to the bench in the year 1985 as Judge Punjab and High Court. And thereafter, Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji started his practice independently. And we can say that since 1985, there has been no stoppage up till now. In the year 2014, Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji was designated as Senior Advocate. And subsequently, in the year 2014, in November 2014, he was appointed as Advocate General for the state of Haryana. Subsequently, he was given the rank and status of the Cabinet Minister on 2nd of August 2015. Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji is associated with many social organizations, and he was also working as elected president, as national president for Akhil Bharatiya Adhivakta Parishad in December 2013. Friends, as we are in informal webinar, so I take the opportunity to introduce our keynote speaker informally as well. It was on 20th of June 2014 when for the first time I climbed the stairs of his office, and I was joined by my father. Once we were climbing the stairs, he asked me, "Do you know why are we here?" I said, "Yes, because Mr. Mahajan is a very prominent advocate." The answer was not only a prominent advocate, but he's also a wonderful human being. He further said that how to deal with the monetary aspect in the profession, that can be learned in many offices in Chandigarh. But as far as the characteristics of ethics, humbleness, dedication, and hard working with honesty in the profession can only be learned in this office. I was blessed to be a part of this office. With all this, I welcome our today's speaker, Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji, on the topic of Specific Relief Act 2018. Specific Relief Act came into force. The Amendment Act came into force on 1st of August 2018. And the Act aims to deal with the enforceability of the contracts and the ease of doing the business. So now I would like to welcome Shri Baldevraj Mahajan ji to deal with the topic of today. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Akhilesh. All office bearer activists of informal webinar and other friends. I am thankful to all of you for giving me also an opportunity to share my views with you during this corona period, when we are aware that everybody is expected to confine, and despite all financial difficulties that all advocates are facing, the Supreme Court has said now recently that you cannot earn your livelihood from any other source. You are expected to earn your livelihood only from the legal profession, and while remaining in legal profession, despite Corona period and despite all of the difficulties, as some of the Bar Council took a decision that the advocates are permitted to do other profession or other engagements also. But the Supreme Court has put a seal to that also. Despite all difficulties, though the courts have started limited functioning, but unless the physical functioning of the court start, we cannot be regularly on duty. And this period of Corona, perhaps we all expected will finish in a month or so, or 2 months, 3 months. No, since despite all lockdown remaining confined, no, we are accepting it, we have to live with it. And virtually this is a challenge not only before our country or our state, it is throughout the world virtually. And we have to meet with this challenge. And India has always been in the forefront in meeting all such type of challenges. Though all these challenges are there, still we will be there to meet with all these challenges. We will find out the way, as we have now started working in virtual course also. The big role is in performing duties in virtual course and virtually providing training is of the organization which started on these online webinars, including informal webinars also. Perhaps they have now, by now, performed 50 lectures virtually arranged. And virtually whatever training we were requiring it, they have provided to us. Before this, in fact, Corona period, I have never started my computer on my own. Always systems were being provided to me by my office colleagues also, at AG office, at my residence also, by the staff in my private office also. Now I have also learned how to open the computer, how to join the meeting, how to be participant, how as a speaker is to participate. All big, in fact, contribution is by informal these webinars and by all other organizations who have started this. It also has virtually kept us, otherwise we must have seen it in the beginning. We were all thinking how many persons are suffering Corona. All news was confined to that. So our attention was also diverted from there for doing something virtually positive. Though positive is not a word taken in good sense nowadays, but instead of doing and thinking of all about negative things, we have been put to think positively. It is all now, all these webinars are increasing our doing is our legal updating, technologically updating, and contributing that we are in a position to increase our efficiency in legal profession. So I'm really thankful that I have also been able to update because of the topic, because having been asked to share my view. Otherwise, perhaps no, though when Padamji contacted me with respect to this, I agreed because I have already delivered a lecture with respect to on the same topic earlier, and the subject was more or less prepared. So I agreed to it. But when we have to address the advocates, we have to be more careful and we have to study the topic again and again. And I assure you, whoever have even learnt my earlier lecture on the same subject of Specific Relief Act, I have been enlightened much more than that period. And I will perhaps the participants who were earlier also with us, maybe in fact enlightened with two other aspects of the act also. So with this, perhaps that is we say is our legal updating in our profession. Let's take the subject today. The subject today is Specific Relief Act 2018. In fact, there is no Specific Relief Act 2018. It is only an amendment act. The act name is Specific Relief Amendment Act 2018. Original act is of 1963. That continued to be there, but this amendment act has completely, substantially changed the provisions of the act. So we have to take the act what is today and that in fact completely changed the complexion of the act. So what is the original act? We will have just a glance over it, just to understand what the amendments are, how much it is likely to affect now the system, the procedures in court. In fact, normally when we talk of specific relief act, we think that it is with respect to suit for specific performance or relating to grant of specific reliefs relating to contract. In fact, the specific relief act provides remedies with respect to all civil rights. It's not confined only to contracts. It's not only confined to suit for specific performance. All types of suits are governed by it. It may be a suit for possession. It may be a suit for specific performance of a contract. It may be a suit for cancellation of a document. It may be a suit for rescission of contracts. It may be a suit for virtually declaration for grant of any title. It may be with respect while granting decrees with respect to declarations. The court is not confined to contracts. All our statutory rights are enforceable by way of suit for specific performance. So all these virtually remedies are provided under the Specific Relief Act. So let's, before we start and talk and confine ourselves to the suit, this Specific Relief Amendment Act of 2018, we will have a glance what the Specific Relief Act 1963 is. Originally, in fact, 1963 Act was having three parts. It was part one was with respect to preliminary, it was having a chapter 1, and with respect to, it provides preliminary name of the act, where it is applicable, enforcement of our civil rights, not applicable to virtually penal rights. This is what the part 1 of the Specific Relief Act was. It contains of section 1 to 4 virtually. The second part is with respect to Specific Relief Act, relief which can be granted. It's consisted of virtually 6 chapters. It talks of various types of suit which can be filed. And third, in fact, part relates to preventive relief, injunctions, etc. But the crucial part, important part with respect to courts proceeding or advocates' concerns are the second part with respect to grant of specific reliefs. The second part, it is divided into 6 chapters. First chapter, in fact, deals with the suit for possessions. It is from section 5 to 10, in fact, from section 5 to section 8, what suit for filing suit for possessions. Section 5 deals with respect to filing a suit for possession, which is governed as ordinary by ordinary procedure of Civil Procedure Code. Section 6 is provides suit for possession with respect to immovable property, where the person alleges that he has been forcibly dispossessed, except in due course of law. It provides a remedy of summary suit, restoration of possession. In fact, that is section 6, and section 7 and 8 of the act deals with respect to possession of movable properties. So this part deals with respect to. Then comes the specific performance of contracts. That is a chapter 2 virtually, which deals with it. It consists of section 9 to 25. In fact, it is most of the litigation are with respect to the contracts are with respect to under this chapter. It starts from section 9 to 25. Section 9 is most important part of it, though normally we never discuss about it. This provides defenses which are available in suit for based on contracts. And it says all defenses are available under the law relating to the contracts are available in the suit for specific performance and other suits which are being filed, which are to be filed under this. And it being this Specific Relief Act being only procedural provisions provides remedies with respect to different rights. Substantial rights are governed under the Indian Contract Act. All those defenses which we raise with respect to the contracts may be void contract, voidable contract, fraudulent execution of the documents, minors document is not. All those defenses in all suits are available, whether suit for specific performance is filed, suit for possession is filed based on contract, or suit on any suit based for enforcement or non-enforcement of the documents of contracts. All these defenses which are available with respect to the contracts are available in this. So specific performance of contract, section 9 provides about the defenses, and then section 10 provides with respect to the specific performance which in which circumstances it can be granted. Cases with respect to the contracts of trust properties are governed by section 11. Specific section 12 talks about in what circumstances specific performance of a part of the contract can be permitted by the court. Section 13 deals with it, the persons who have purchaser or lessees who have entered into contracts with the persons who are not having title or having imperfect titles. And then section 14 deals with it, the contracts which can be specifically enforced. Then section 15 deals with the person who are entitled to seek specific performance. Section 16 also provides personal bar to the grant of reliefs. Similarly, section 17 provides the contracts to which are with respect to selling or letting by persons who have no title at the time of entering into contracts. Section 18 provides non-enforcement of some of the enforceability of some of the contracts. Section 19 also provides with respect to the relief against parties who are having claiming under subsequent title extra. Section 20 with respect to the grant of relief in suit for specific performance. Section 20 gives power to grant additional or alternative originally relief in suit of compensation extra. Section 22 provides the grant of relief of possession partition extra. Liquidated damages are provided, and which is said to be not a bar in suit for specific performance. Then bar with respect to grant of compensation unless claimed. These are the provision with respect to grant of in the original. Then comes the chapter with respect to rectification of tournaments. It contains section 26 onwards. Then rescission of contract, section 27. Then rescission of degrees also under section 28. Then cancellation of instruments from section 31 to 33. Then suit for declaration extra for grant of different declarations by the court, effect of declaration. Then injunctions, virtually negative or positive injunction, temporary and perpetual injunction, mandatory injunction, all these are things are. This is in sub and substance, in fact, is the Specific Relief Act 1963. But what amendments the Specific Relief Act 2018 has introduced and how those amendments are important and what changes, why these changes. This is now our topic of discussion today, the Specific Relief Amendment Act. First, why this amendment? As we are aware that when the NDA government came to power in 2014-15, the ease of doing business ranking was too poor for our country. In fact, our country in 2014 was in the world ranking was at number 142. Many steps were taken to improve this ranking, improve the business standard virtually, and a number of acts were even passed in 2015. We are aware the Arbitration and Conciliation Act was amended by ordinance and it was made applicable from 23rd of October 2015. Those subsequent amendments were again made in 2019 also. And then other acts were also amended. In fact, the Commercial Courts Act came on the same day on 23rd of October 2015, subsequently again amended in 2018. Similarly, NCLT, the Companies Act was amended and under the new NCLT was established. GST was introduced in 2016. Number of steps were taken. Similarly, one of the question when came up with while considering with respect to this ease of doing business ranking, it was found that enforceability of the contracts in our country takes too much time. Normal time that is being alleged was to be 4 years to decide a suit with respect to, though it can be less also in a case and it can be more also in some of the cases. It was comparatively too long a time in our country than comparison to other countries. In some of the countries, it was being quoted that it takes 6 months. May not be average, though it was being alleged it takes 6 months, 6 months to 1 year. And but 4 years when average was being presented, so it was thought of that unless contract enforceability is increased, because when business is to be increased, there are it is natural that there will be disputes also. Unless the dispute resolution system is improved, enforceability of the contract is improved, the person will not come and invest in business also. So a committee was constituted and with respect to examine with respect to the enforceability of the contracts. That committee virtually was consisting of the advocates or advocate firms, partner or proprietors, and that committee submitted its report in persons to which this specific relief act has been amended. Lot of changes are there, and some of the changes which changes the complexion is that in the original specific relief act, lot of discretion was there with the court to grant specific performance. In almost all the section, where even if you are able to prove the contract, validly executed contract, whether specific performance should be granted, it gives complete discretion to the court. It starts from section 10, cases in which specific performance should be granted. And the first, it provided to the court is to examine while granting a specific performance. The section 10 originally say that virtually whether instead of specific performance, there exists no standard for ascertaining the actual damage which has caused for non-performance. If it can be ascertained, there can be no specific performance that gives the power. Similarly, in section 11 was with respect to grant of specific performance with respect to trust properties etc. It gives a discretion, even if it is proved that there is a validly executed contract on behalf of the trust by the person who is duly authorized and entered into contract. Still, it says that it gives the discretion to the court in case of contracts on behalf with respect to trust properties. The court may, the word says the court may grant. Now it has been only been changed, which gives the discretion originally. Similarly, in section 14 also, now originally provided the court to see whether the non-performance can be compensated in money, and similar are the provision to give the discretion as to the decreeing of the specific performance, section 20. All these discretions now has been taken away by the legislation. This is a major change which has been made in the Specific Relief Act, that the total discretion has been taken. And once an agreement to sell is proved, it is proved that it is a valid contract agreement. The words have been used as court shall grant specific performance. No grant of specific performance is a rule instead of an exception. Earlier, grant of compensation or damages was the rule, and grant of specific performance was an exception. It has completely been changed now. I will deal with respect to the specific amendment made in this respect. But just to summarize, what are the major amendments? This is one of the major amendments that total discretion is taken. Where it is, I will specifically also deal with it. Second, the major amendment is it has now provided a substituted contract. This is the provision has been introduced for the first time, virtually by section 20A in the Act. Special provision with respect to section 20 of the Act. So substituted contracts provision, as we say earlier originally, in many of the government contracts, provision of getting the work done at risk and cost of the party if he fails to do it. That was there, normally not enforceable in number of hurdles. This has now been made general that if the contract is there, by giving notice, you can get it enforced through your own agency or through any third agency. This is an additional aspect which has been introduced. Third is with respect to, as we see in infrastructure projects, whenever any major infrastructure projects is started by the government, many of the NGO comes, particularly the foreign funded NGOs, they will try to create hurdles that the project should not be there, it should not be through. They used to file lot of litigation, suits, writ petitions to say, though it was being done in the name of pollution, environment, all those tactics were being used by the NGO because lot of funds were being provided by the other countries so that to keep our growth or development in the country to a limited. So this has now by amendment, it is being taken care of that in case of infrastructure projects, there cannot be any injunction. No court normally will grant any injunction. The provision have been introduced in this respect also in the Act. Another is special courts have been established. Section 20B has been added that with respect for expeditious disposal of the cases, special courts will be established, designated from the existing courts also. That is another aspect. And other aspect is with respect to engagement of experts. With respect to accounting dispute is there, court can engage any expert and call a report from him, and his report will be though the earlier also provision were there in the CPC, the court was entitled to appoint any person as a local commissioner to submit a report with respect to any aspect. But now, in addition to that, the provisions have been provided and specifically said that report of the expert appointed by the court will be part of the record. Those parties are entitled to summon that person in evidence. But even without summoning, the report given by him will be part of the record. Virtually, it will be treated as an evidence. This is an important amendment introduced. Another is with respect to the person who are entitled to or against whom the specific performance can be granted or the leave is added limited liability partnerships. This concept since came in between. Now it is provided the person who are entitled to or against whom the specific performance can be granted. The limited liability partnership firms, even if they are amalgamated to another limited liability partnership, they are also the limited liability partnership with whom it is amalgamated. They are also entitled to seek specific performance, and specific performance can also be granted against such firm. These are the major aspects virtually in the Specific Relief Act, Amendment Act, which has been now added. This has completely crucial, in fact, changed the complexion of the Specific Relief Act, which was originally there in 1963 Act. Now, I will take up these amendments just to, in brief, these are the 5 or 6 aspects of the Amendment Act. I will take it with one by one with respect to this amendments made in the Act. I will start it. The minor amendments, I have not summarized it, but I will just explain those amendments also. In fact, the first amendment is in section 6 with respect to, in fact, summary suits with respect to restoration of possession. Though originally the Act says that any person or a person claiming through him were entitled to file a suit. As a tenant is in possession of the property, the landlord the tenant is dispossessed. He says, why should I file suit for restoration? I will get another property on rent. Why should I involve myself into litigation? So though no specifically no said the landlord was entitled to file a suit in that cases. That did not specifically say so, but there was in fact already interpretation by the Supreme Court saying that the person through whom he has been inducted into possession, he was in possession, he was also entitled to file a suit. This fact was in fact made clear by the Supreme Court in 2012 in Virgo Industries case. But this now has been made specifically by way of amendment. It has been added that any person or claiming through him may by suit recover possession. Earlier, any person claiming through him. Now it has been added that any person through whom he has been in possession or any person through claiming through him is entitled to file a suit. Now, as in a case, a dispute is there with respect to a person has been inducted into possession of the property by me. I may be a co-owner of the property. In case I have inducted a tenant, he is in possession through me. I am entitled to file a suit even if another co-owner dispossess him. He is a owner of the property, but it was in my possession that I inducted that person into tenancy. So the other co-owner cannot dispossess him except in due course of law. Even in not in case of tenant, even if I induct a person as a licensee, I am in possession of the property, though being a co-owner. I have inducted a person to live in it. He is in consistent possession, though it cannot be by forcible possession. I take possession of a property, induct a person, and after 2 months the dispute raised. If a person is there in possession as my licensee for 4 years, and virtually settled, it is a settled possession, then even if the other co-owner is to get possession, he has to come through in due course of law. So I am deemed to be in possession of the property. If he dispossess the person who was in possession through me, I am entitled to first restoration of the possession, irrespective what I have share in that property or what share he has in the property, or in whose share ultimately the property may go in partition proceeding. So this is the first amendment made by 2018 amendment in section 6 of the Act. Then in section 10 is the amendment made. Originally, section 10 deals with cases in which the specific performance of contract is enforceable. And it starts that first that except as otherwise provided in this case, the specific performance is in the discretion of the court, may be enforced when there exists no standard of ascertaining actual damage caused by non-performance. This act now section has been completely changed. This version, section 10, has been taken away. It said the specific performance of a contract shall be enforced by the court, subject to provisions of section 11, 2, 14, and 16. That provision ultimately some changes are in those there also, because in section 2 also section 11 is also stand amended. There also the discretion has been taken away. Section 14 also the discretion is taken away, but discretion given in section 10 that if the compensation or damage can be a certain damage should be paid, that is taken away. It is now section 10 says that if the contract is approved, the specific performance of the contract shall be enforced by the court. That is a very important amendment being made. Similarly, in section 11 also the same amendment is there. Originally it provided is the discretion of the court that relates to with respect to the trust properties. No, it has said the contract shall be enforced by the court. That is the wording now used in section 11(1) also. With respect to again the amendment comes in section 16 and 16. The person who are entitled to seek 15 and 16. 15 also the amendment is provided, as I explained, the limited liability partnership. They are entitled to seek enforcement even if they are amalgamated into another limited liability partnership. The amalgamated firm is also entitled to seek. That is the addition made. In addition to that, all those persons who were originally entitled to seek specific performance, they continue to be that the parties, their representative, all those persons originally were. Similarly, in section 16 is the important amendment. That is, normally in all civil litigation, in all suits for specific performance, besides the other police we used to raise the police, that the plaintiff has not averred that he was ready and willing. Evering taking plea that with respect to that he was ready and willing to perform his part of the contract, gave, in fact, lot of litigation, rise to a lot of litigation. Now, in fact, that crucial amendment has been taken away. The pleading part is now deleted. You are required to prove it. Proving you have to, since you are seeking specific performance, you are required to prove it. Now only proving part is there. The part of in section 16 which they say plead and prove, pleading part is taken. You have to prove it only. Pleading portion has been deleted. So that is a crucial amendment, because originally Act say if it is not there, you are not entitled to degree for specific performance. Though law was liberal, that amendment can be allowed by the court to incorporate this plea, but lot of contradictory judgments came at which up to which stage the court can permit you. These are though the technical pleas only, and many of the suit used to fail on this ground. So section 16 now stand amended. This has been taken away. It is not now required to plead, but you are required to prove. That is the basic requirement also. Once you are seeking enforcement from the other party, you have to prove that you were ready and you are still ready and willing to perform. That is the amendment made now in section 16 also crucial. Similarly, section 19 deals with the person against whom the specific performance, that is a limited amendment with respect to limited liability partnership firm, and amalgamated partnership firm can also, against that also the enforcement of the contract can be sought. Then comes the section 20. That is a crucial amendment in section 20 also. Originally, in fact, the heading of the section 20 is also changed. And in fact, originally it said discretion as to the decreeing specific performance. The section 20 starts with it. Heading itself has been changed. It says substituted performance of contract receipt. Substituted contract, no provision has been added in it. Substituted performance, you are entitled to seek it. That is the amendment made in crucial amendment made in the by way of amendment. That substituted performance is that if the contract is proved, you are entitled to seek specific performance by way of substituted contract. The agreement is proved. You can give a note. The person against whom the agreement is there seems to be reluctant to perform his part of the contract. And it can be a limited period agreement, or it can cause you a damage instead of, or if you have to, you may have already paid the amount for the work which he is to do it. So this provision now give that you can substitute your contract. If the person is reluctant, you can give him a notice of 30 days and you can yourself get the work done. You can do it through your own agency, or you can engage a third agency also to get the work done. Now, if you give a 1 month notice to him and you get the work done, if you have to spend something in addition to it, you are also entitled to recover that also from the person who is at fault, who have in this substituted contract virtually. This is the addition made. If you get it done from, suppose you have given a contract for house building to A for 2 lakhs, he is showing to be reluctance to perform his part of the contract. You get it done through another contractor who claims instead of 2 lakh, 3 lakh from you. And you just give him a 30 days notice that if you have failed to perform or start the work, I will get it done through another agency. And if he don't perform his part of the contract, you are entitled to get it done and you recover the entire difference from the person who is at fault. This is an additional right given under the Act. It's a very substantial amendment made in section 20, virtually with respect to the grant of substituted performance of the contract by just giving a notice and recovering the amount also from the person. Earlier, in fact, it gives the complete discretion whether specific performance should be granted or should not be, whether compensation can be granted or not granted. Lot of litigation was there. This amendment is also very substantial amendment in section 20 added by 2018 amendment. Then subsequent amendments comes In fact, in section 20A, 20A, 20B and 20C are the newly added provisions. Section 20A is with respect to special provision for contract relating to infrastructure projects. As I indicated that now it's section 20A has been added that no injunction shall be granted by a court in a suit involving contract relating to an infrastructure project specified in the schedule. A schedule has been provided lot of all sorts of, in fact, infrastructure projects have been included in it, and it relates to transport, it relates to energy, water, sanitation, solid management, with water treatment, communication, social and commercial infrastructure, and still power has been given to the central government that by notification it can add any type of other infrastructure project in the schedule, and that will be treated to be a infrastructure project as indicated in the schedule, and no injunction can be granted with respect to. And this will in fact give rise to the business in our country, attract investment from other countries also. It will also increase development in our country virtually. All those, once no injunction is to be granted, ultimately the projects can be completed in time. It will increase our GDP in our country. Our infrastructure facilities will be increased with the passage of time in a date-bound manner. It will avoid unnecessarily cost of litigation of the projects, because the moment litigation starts with respect to a project, it remains pending for years together, and the cost of the projects also increase manifold. So this is a crucial amendment made. It's not only added in section 20A by adding it, even section 41, which originally deals with injunction and specifies the injunction cases in which the injunction cannot be granted by the court. In that also the provision clause HA has been added in section 41 also. That also provides that the injunction cannot be granted if it would impede or delay the progress or completion of any infrastructure projects. Interesting part, further more important is, or interfere with the continued provision of relevant facility related to or services being subject matter of such project. It's not only the project, any services as a project is to be executed, if any services is to be provided to the project, there cannot be any injunction with respect to that. It goes much more than section 20A which is added, because section 41 is also substantial part of the provisions of the act. So it will also a part of the provision under it. No injunction will be granted with respect to any facility which is required with respect to that project for which no injunction is to be granted. No injunction can be granted with respect to any services which are required to be provided supplemented to the infrastructure project. So section 41A, this class 1 HA which has been added, and section 21A with the schedule. It provides a lot of, in fact, facilities to facilitate the development in our country, complete all our infrastructure projects in time. It will be further will increase that all infrastructure projects can be completed within the, in fact, the cost which is already pre-estimated, that the project of the cost, it will not increase the cost of the project also. And the facilities can be provided to all persons within time. It will indirect further investment from the other countries, who persons, even foreign investors who are interested in investing in our country in infrastructure projects. It will attract them also, that even if there is a dispute, it can be resolved in a time-bound manner. Similarly, section 20B is also important. Not only this, though it further provides, section 20B provides a special courts will be there to decide with respect to all these project related litigation. Section 20B provides the state government, in consultation with the Chief Justice of the High Court, shall designate by notification one or more civil courts as special courts within the local limits to exercise jurisdiction to try a suit under this act in respect to the contracts relating to infrastructure projects. though we have seen that special courts are required to be infrastructure, no injunction, particularly when these suits are tried by specified courts only. And in fact, in the states of Punjab and Haryana and in the Union Territory, the governments have already notified such special courts. We are not. I was also not much aware of with respect to the notification of such courts under this act, though we were aware that special commercial courts have been established. They also decide in the with respect to these cases in a time-bound manner. But special courts have been provided, notified by all the Punjab government, Haryana government, and the Union Territory. Notification with respect to the government of Haryana, latest notification with respect to the government of Haryana under the section 20 capital B of the Specific Relief Act is of 30th of August 2019. The notification notifying special court under Specific Relief Act. Similar notification by the Punjab government is on 13th of February 2019. And similar notification by the Union Territory is also there on 27th of February 2019. These are the courts which have been notified to decide suits with respect to the infrastructure projects under the Specific Relief Act. Though commercial courts are also there to look into it, even if a case is not filed in a commercial court, the suit will be required to be decided by these special courts. Even these courts are specified, required to decide these suits in a specified manner. And these courts are also expected not to grant injunction with respect to any infrastructure projects. Another, in fact, amendment in section 20C has also been provided. That is power, in fact, expeditious disposal of the suits. That also makes a provision such special courts will make efforts to decide all suits within a period of 1 year. And this period can be extended, but only up to a period of 6 months. So 1.5 year period is provided to decide these suits with respect to by these special courts. This is the special provision. Otherwise, we are aware that suits for specific performance take years together, and many of the RSA regular second appeals, I have the experience to which I am doing, not if third generation, at least number of cases, second generation fight it out, it continue for years together virtually. Because first appeal, suit takes 4 to 5 years, then first appeal, then second appeal. And if unluckily it is admitted, then third generation is bound to come to contest those proceedings. If it is decided at the motion stage, even in those most of the cases is the second generation which used to fight it out. But this provision will take care if a suit is required to be decided in a date-bound manner. Naturally, the appellate court will also be required in a such suit to decide the appeal also in an expeditious manner. This appeal being from the judgment and degree of a special court, not a routine, though the powers have been given to the civil judges. But even civil judges have to decide as a special court. As in commercial court cases also, and civil judges have been given power to decide commercial disputes up to 50 lakhs, but they decided as a special court, and the special procedure they are required to follow it. And the appeal also the same special procedure they will be required to follow it. Similarly, in these special courts also are required to decide in a date-bound manner. If they decide it in a date-bound manner, naturally the appeal will also be required to be decided in a date-bound manner. This is a very important amendment made by this special Specific Relief Act Amendment Act 2018 in the Specific Relief Act. These are two crucial amendments. Then the other amendments which are there virtually are in section 21 with respect to grant of compensation. Earlier, in fact, the original section 21 provided that in all and normally whenever we deal in the suit for specific performance, we have seen it in the plate, alternative players were used to be made that if specific relief is not granted, specific performance is not granted, I may be granted compensation. I may be granted a fund of the earnest money along with the damages extra. Now section 21 says, since it has been now made once a contract is proved, specific performance has now become a rule. Now section 21 amendment says you will claim compensation or damages additionally in addition to the specific performance. not as an alternative relief, because alternative relief is not required to be claimed because specific performance is now a rule. But you can claim, in addition to the specific performance, you are entitled to claim compensation in every suit for specific performance. This is also a major amendment because originally we were expecting specific performance may or may not be granted, so at least my amount should be refunded, at least with the interest should be refunded. And normally the court also, because of the passage of time, used to say you can get your money back along with interest. Virtually money value goes. That money which originally I agreed to purchase the house was not in a position to get me a substituted house even for double the amount. But that was the law originally. This has now been, this amendment though is minor, it seems to be minor, but it's a crucial amendment that now if the person is not prepared to perform his part of the contract and execute sale deed extra, lease deed extra, which he has agreed to, now he will be remain a threat that in addition to executing a sale deed, the court can ask me to pay the amount of compensation also. I will be have to lose my property and additionally may be liable to pay the amount as a compensation, because this is now made a part where substantive provision in the act. So this amendment is also from that aspect very important, and we in all suit for specific performance we must raise these pleas and press for grant of compensation if ultimately the suit is decreed that we should be compensated because we cannot get possession of the property in time. We were ready, the plaintiff, the defendant was now ready. So this is another important aspects which is introduced by way of amendment. And then the section 41 I have already explained you. And other aspects of the amendment is the introduction of section 14A, which gives a power to the court to engage experts. Section 14A is added that which say that without prejudice to the other provision which are there in the CPC, the court can engage the services of any expert. And whenever expert is engaged, the report of the expert will be treated as a part of the record. Virtually, it will be read into evidence. Earlier, whenever local commissioner used to be appointed, maybe accountant to go into the account, maybe a person to make demarcation, or may for other purposes, lot of objections used to come with respect to the report of the local commissioner. Then lot of objection during arguments that this has not been proved. The person who has given the report has not been summoned as a witness. He has not been given opportunity to cross-examine, and all those objections were there. But once the substantial provision of the act say that his report will be a part of the record, then it is not required to be formally proved. It will be read into evidence because court has engaged it, his report has come, it's a part of the report. Though, in fact, the provision adds that if you are wanted to challenge the report or you wanted to test the veracity of the report, you are entitled to call the person engaged, this expert, and can cross-examine him, can examine him in court also in your evidence, and cross-examine also, or can call him to support the report also. This power is there in these provisions. But even without, if nobody raises the objection, the report will be read into evidence because it's a part of the record now. So this is also a crucial amendment because the CPC, in fact, originally was being a procedural, gives rise that the right to objections, right to call in for cross-examination. This say that if nobody objects to him, it can be engaged, this expert can be engaged in number of cases. A chartered accountant can be asked to go look into the accounts and submit a report. A person can be asked to demarcate the property and give a report to the court. Other types of, wherever any specialization is required, the court can engage the services of any person and that his report can be treated to be a part of the record. Those, it will remain to subject to rights of the party to examine that expert in court to prove or disprove his report. So these are the virtually the most of the amendments which I found are relevant to discuss with you. Any clarification with respect to or any other thing which any of the colleagues will be requiring, I will be happy to share my views with him. I
Thank you,
try
sir.
to simplify it in a simple manner, virtually.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I had attended your last webinar on Specific Relief Act also, and I thought I had learned a lot. But after attending today, I feel your knowledge bank is so wide and so vast that there is a lot to learn from you. I feel there's a new aspect, new angle which I have seen to the Specific Relief Act today itself, while hearing it twice from you itself, sir. So thank you so much. We are really indebted to you. And I think after having heard you, I think there are a lot of questions to ask, which our speakers would. In fact, I myself would start with a question.
Yes, welcome. Welcome, please.
So my question would be, as you say that after the amendment, now specific performance of a contract will become the rule. It's not the alternate relief. Earlier, there was always a dispute that the court may grant alternate relief or the main relief. Now it has become compulsion. So my question would be, would this amendment apply to the existing suits or appeals filed before 2018 or not? And if yes, whether any amendment is required to be done, or how would one proceed, sir?
The Amendment Act does not say anything. But since I got an opportunity to put these arguments, my arguments before the court, though it is not the case is now decided, since it was being taken before summer vacation, when I raised the plea, the judge was of the view it will require a lot of arguments and deferred it to the after vacation, and thereafter it could not be taken up. It is last year when after the amendment. My argument before the court was that substantive rights of the parties are governed by the Contract Act. The Specific Relief Act is only a procedural provision. It provides the remedies to us. It being a procedural law, the Amendment Act is also a part of the procedural law. Whenever there is a change in procedural law, unless the Act says that it will not apply to pending proceeding, normally it is always applied. Yeah, as in case of many procedural, even in the case of CPC also, because where the Act say it will apply from such section will apply to from such and such date or from such and such date, there those provisions are applied to. Otherwise, it applies to all the pending proceedings also. So my my view is that it will apply even to the appeals. We should raise an argument, though it will apply from same stage also. And there are judgments that the specific relief remedies provided in the specific relief are procedural only. So the once a procedural is there, whenever there is an amendment in any procedural provision, it will apply to pending proceedings also. Whether it should be at the suit stage, it will definitely apply to the pending suits. That's my view. But maybe a little difference of opinion with respect to whether it will apply at the second appeals stage also, because the rights once has been decided by the first court and second court also. But we should raise, once it is a procedural provision, unless there are strong reasons not to make applicable to the pending proceeding, it should apply to all the pending proceedings.
So, sir, we'll wait for you to argue this matter, and it will be a pleasure to watch you and follow you on this side. So there are certain questions in the chat box. I can just read out. Can a landlord file suit for specific performance against the tenant besides invoking provisions of Rent Act for a vacation of his rented property?
No. Because the protection is provided to the tenant under the Rent Restriction Act. Because the TP Act was otherwise there was no necessity to file enact this Rent Restriction Act. Section 13 of the Rent Restriction Act in Punjab and Haryana both, which is also applicable to Chandigarh also. It protects the tenant from tenancy. It says you can, if the tenant in possession during tenancy, during the lease period, or even after the lease period, even after termination of tenancy, even if you have served a notice of the termination of tenancy, thereafter also he cannot be ejected from the premises except on the grounds prescribed. So you have to make out a ground under the Rent Restriction Act to claim, because statutory tenant has the protection in the Rent Act. But now the Rent Act in Punjab has stand amended. There, in fact, the leases have been made date bound. There, the rights have been totally been changed. Now, subsequently, the new acts are making provision if you have been given a property for a lease for a period of 2 years, 3 years, for a fixed period, then the landlord will be entitled to restoration of possession. Then The earlier protection, given statutory protection given to the tenant, is not there in the new act virtually. It is substantially changed virtually. So under the new act, but in Haryana and in the UT, still they, because whenever tenancy, these period, even because normally we have seen it, the rent note used to be got executed for a period of 11 months,
11.
but still tenant was entitled to continue because the rent act say after the period of the lease he will be treated as a statutory tenant having protection of the statute. So that will continue to be there in Haryana and UT. In Punjab, new act since has now come into force. So limited protection is there. That protection after if you have executed lease deed for a fixed period, or if you violate the terms of the lease deed, then the new act, as in the Transfer of Property Act, says that you are entitled to evict a tenant, and the remedy can be there.
Right. So there is another, although this question is a different topic altogether, but still I'll ask. It says, what is the effect of force majeure on performance of contract in the wake of COVID-19?
Different views are being taken. In fact, as we have seen it, there was a lot of litigation, not from other person, even from the advocates, that the rent should not be recovered for this period. Delhi High Court initially granted interim stay extra, subsequently vacated it. Then subsequently Supreme Court has also said that you are bound to pay the rent. If you are not in a position to pay it, for landlord it is the only source of his livelihood. From person to person it may be a different position. So a lot of litigation will be there. No, it has to be virtually taken with respect to a particular aspects only. Uniform view cannot be, and we are also aware whenever interpretation is to be made with respect to a circumstances or with respect to even a provision of law, it always depends upon the circumstances which we are discussing before the court, pleading before the court, and different view can be taken. In fact, uniform view cannot be taken with respect to, but the court can always see, even if I have committed a default with respect to, as in bank case it is coming up, that I could not pay my earnest money during the period, my installment in the time fixed. Ultimately, it comes up before the court. The central government is also coming forward with the plea to defer it. Even if comes up before the court, court can also take a view that it was the circumstances beyond the control of the party. The liberal view can be taken, but uniformly it cannot be said that benefit will be given and you will be not be required to do what otherwise you are required to do under a statute or under a lease deed or any contract or any agreement of the parties. But benefit is required to be given ultimately.
Yes. So next is Dr. Jyoti Sharma. She'd like to ask a question. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself, please.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Sir, I would like to thank first for very informative session. And sir, it's a privilege for us to listen you. I follow you, sir, as an inspiration for all the youngsters who don't have any legal background. So, sir, my question is, how do you see new provisions in the Amendment Act with regard to non-grant of injunction in cases where contract related to infrastructure projects, Section 20 amendment?
Yes. Plus the Section 20, in fact, now has specifically said that there cannot be any, the court cannot grant any injunction with respect to infrastructure projects. Not only Section 20A, even in Section 41A, because Section 41 originally of the Act also provides the cases where the court cannot grant, should not grant any injunction. Act says the court will not grant any injunction with respect to A, B, C, these reasons are there. Even there the provision has been added as clause HA. There also it has been provided no injunction will be granted with respect to infrastructure projects, and it made in fact the provision more. It said no injunction will be granted with respect to any services which are related to infrastructure, as infrastructure projects is an independent project. Suppose in some other facilities are required to be provided to the project by third persons, no injunction can be granted under clause HA of Section 41, even with respect to those services or those facilities also. And in fact, the schedule now gives details with respect to the infrastructure project. It is a quite comprehensive schedule, but still powers have been given to the court, in fact, to the central government, they can add any type of other projects also in the infrastructure project list in the schedule, and no injunction will be. Normally we have to change now. Still many suits are there. I was dealing with the case only day before yesterday. No, neither it relates to a municipal corporation. There was, it relates, the stay has been granted by a court, appellate court reversed it, but there was no such plea. For the first time in the revision petition, I have to raise a plea that this is an infrastructure project where the court does not have any power. Any violation or not violation, the injunction cannot be granted. But I was also asked to say where is the plea. So then I have to raise an argument. This is a totally a legal plea, new amendment made in the act, and ultimately court dismissed the revision petition, did not grant any injunction. But we have to change ourselves also, because it is a substantial provision added in section 20A also, section 41 also, schedule also. Wherever we are defense counsel, we have to first conversant with it, and we must raise a plea in the written statement itself whenever such suit is filed, not only with respect to infrastructure project, even with respect to any facilities to the project connected with it, or in any services which are indirectly connected with it. Even suppose as a project is to be started, some electricity line is to be, facilities there. So it's not part of it. They have to make their own arrangement, but still it can be raised as a defense, and it is to facilitate the infrastructure project. No injunction should be granted, and class, in fact, section 20A does not say with respect to that, but clause HA of section 41 take care of that also, and no injunction can be granted with respect to that also. So, but we are required to raise a plea with respect to the written statements in all such cases also. So I don't think in few cases, either court may not be conversant with it, the provision added, or the council or the parties may not be aware. But ultimately, in fact, we will see to the trend in even in the High Court also, because a lot of writ petitions are also filed in with respect to infrastructure projects. Tender matter, non-tender matter, proper acceptance, non-acceptance. You cannot stop the infrastructure projects because you will be a loser. Because the cost of the project will increase many times if it is finally to be decided whether the contract is properly awarded, tender is properly accepted or not. Even if a person is not being given the tender, not being allotted a contract, but he will be there, he will lose his profit. It can be compensated in money. This is the basic principle of law, that no injunction should be granted if a person can be compensated in terms of money. So in an infrastructure project, he can be compensated in person. He is only interested in executing a project and earning a profit out of it. He can be compensated in money even if he is wrongly denied a project. So normally these defenses will be required to be raised in High Court also in all the writ petition which are related to the infrastructure projects. Though the act does not say it relates to a suit, but the intention of the parliament has to be seen. Intention of law is the infrastructure project must be completed during the period which has been prescribed, and it will even if a compensation is to be paid, it will be much less than the cost which if the project is not completed in time, the price of the project will be increased. So we have to be conversed, raise all these pleas. This act is very useful for infrastructure projects and for development of our country virtually. Development of the state, development of our city, virtually amounts to development of the country also. So this is a very crucial amendment. We have to raise these pleas in all the proceeding. It may be a suit, it is a statutory provision now, but even in writ petition in extraordinary jurisdiction also, the court can be convinced that even if a tender is not being properly according to him, he is entitled to, not the other person, but he will get profit out of it. This profit which he has been deprived can be compensated in money. But if the project is delayed, the price of the, in fact, the people will be deprived of the facilities they are to be provided, and the price of the project will go manifold. So I think these are very substantial provision according to me.
Thank you so much, sir.
So probably UT administration forgot to raise this issue regarding the Tribune flyover. There is a stay on it since long now.
Yeah, that's why I raised it, because though if we read it by only statutory provision, it relates to a suit only. But intention of the parliament is there, the infrastructure project, and intention why this amendment is also being made to virtually improve the rank or ease of doing business ranking in, at the world level. If instead of trial court injunction is to be granted by the High Court, it will frustrate that. Ranking will remain again the same, frustrated from one court or the other court also. So intention we can always put as a defense even in the writ petition that this is an infrastructure project where the parliament has also come forward with the amendments as such projects must be completed, and what in the tender matter virtually comes that I am entitled to, I would have 100 crore out of it. If project is 2000 crore, it will go to 4000 crore. Even if it is to be paid 100 crore more without even work, it will not be too much virtually for the project to become allowing to be completed.
So seeing the time limitation, we'll be taking only last two questions. One is from Mr. Ajay Kumar Jindal, advocate. Yes, sir, please, you can ask your question.
Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mahajan. My question is that under the Punjab Rent Act, according to Section 4, the rent note has to be registered in accordance with the Registration Act. And if the rent note is not registered, then it cannot be looked for any purpose whatsoever.
That's right.
Now, here the tenancies are being still created under the unregistered rent notes. The question comes is that if I file a ejectment application on the basis of that rent note, it is dismissed, then I will have to file a suit for possession under the Transfer of Property Act.
Yes, you are entitled to file it because he don't have no the protection of the Rent Restriction Act.
He does
Earlier
not.
statutory protection was there. He is
Right.
there in the premises. He can remain there in the premises only under a contract, which is the lease deed executed or the rent note executed between the party. If rent note itself is not admissible in evidence, it cannot be seen. If it cannot be seen for the purpose of the, it cannot be seen for
Relationship of the tenant.
even for terms of the what are the terms, in what capacity is there, it cannot be seen. Even if he is a tenant, he don't have the protection because he can get protection only of the lease deed or the rent note. So we are entitled to file a suit for possession.
So if I straightway file the suit for possession, that will
Yes.
be maintainable.
Yes, we are entitled to now file a suit.
Second question is that you have said that this act of specific relief act as amended in 2018
Yes.
will apply to the existing suits also.
Mhm.
Now, according to the General Clauses Act, if there is no provision made in the act itself that
Yes.
it will be retrospective,
Yes.
then all the acts are to be seen that it are applicable prospectively.
Yes.
Secondly, if we see the Code of Civil Procedure under Order 6 Rule 17,
Yes.
the Supreme Court has ruled that amendment which are prior to the filing of the passing of the amendment will be dealt by the old rule, and after the amendment it will be dealt with by the proviso which has been added to Order 6 Rule 17.
That's
How do you reconcile these provisions?
we have to make a, as I earlier also suggested, we have to make a, there is actually silent with respect to its applicability. Though we have to make difference between the procedural provisions and substantive provisions. The act which creates a substantial rights, unless the act itself say, it will always be a perspective from the date of passing of the act or applicability of the act. But so far as the procedural provisions are there, earlier interpretation of the courts are, if it is a procedural provision, it will apply to all the pending proceedings also. So the act is silent. The case law is with respect to whether ultimately there is no, in fact, except one or two judgments, there are not much judgments as whether specific relief act is a procedural provision only or it creates a rights also.
Substantive right also.
So, because otherwise our arguments normally I raised in the cases that substantial rights of the parties are governed under the Indian Contract Act. Because whatever contract we have executed is under the Contract Act provisions, or those provisions are to govern. Specific leave have provide me the remedy only. It's a procedural provision, what remedy, whether suit file specific performance, cancellation, or whatever there ultimately, if I say the contract fraudulently executed, I can get it declared to be void contract. All those are the procedure provided out to. Substantive rights are under the Indian Contract Act. If our argument is ultimately accepted, that is a procedural provision only, I think it should apply to pending suits also. As regards the Civil Procedure Code Amendment Act, in fact, in the Civil Procedure Code Amendment Act itself is provided in the last section where repealing and the provision extra is given. From which date, which section, in fact, it gives different date with respect to the applicability of different amendments made in the Civil Procedure Act 2002 also. So the Supreme Court was interpreting, in fact, that repealing an amendment act of the Civil Procedure Code Amendment Act 2002, when it said that these provisions will be applicable only prospectively. So it was in that context act. Since this act does not say anything, so it will ultimately depend upon the interpretation ultimately which came to the, there is no, at the moment there is no case law. But unless we raise a plea and all the pending suits, we will be deprived of the benefit. Ultimately, if we raise a plea, even if ultimately not accepted, so whatever earlier procedure is there, that will always govern of the proceedings in the case. But if we don't raise any plea, then the court may not give us the benefit, even if ultimately it is a procedural provision are applicable. So that's my view, that we should raise in such a manner the plea.
So the last question of the day is from Ms. Ekta. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself. Can you hear me? I think I'm not audible to her. Sir, we've already taken a lot of time of yours today, sir. We're really grateful. But before we end, there has to be something from Mr. Padam also, who's been very helpful in coordinating with you. And in fact, he's the one who's, because of whose invitation you are there. Padamji, please.
थैंक यू विशाल। जैसा कि अखिलेश जी ने परिचय दिया सर का, महाजन साहब का, कि 1982 में प्रैक्टिस स्टार्ट की। ओरिजिनली अमृतसर से बिलोंग करते हैं और चंडीगढ़ में प्रैक्टिस करते हैं अभी। पर मैं भी बात 1985 की करूंगा। 1982 में बीकानेर में एक लॉ कॉलेज है, वहाँ के फाइनल ईयर लॉ एग्जाम्स का मूड्स चल रहा था। और वहाँ पे जब एक स्टूडेंट ने अपनी मूड डायरी प्रेजेंट की एग्जामिनर को, तो एग्जामिनर ने कहा कि मैं तुम्हें नहीं पहचानता, हु आर यू, डू नॉट बिलोंग टू दिस कॉलेज, हु आर यू। तो स्टूडेंट ने कहा कि डू यू नो हु इज द टॉपर फॉर लास्ट 2 years इन योर कॉलेज। तो एग्जामिनर ने कहा हाँ मैं जानता हूँ, बलदेव है। तो द टॉपर थ्रू आउट वाज श्री बलदेव राज महाजन जी इन दैट कॉलेज फॉर लॉ, though he did not attend many classes I guess but still he remained the topper throughout in the LLB, in the law college where he did his LLB. अब ऐसा है कि जब हमने भी बहुत क्लासेस मिस की होंगी लॉ करते हुए, पर हमने स्टूडेंट सेंटर पे घूमने के लिए या लेक पे घूमने के लिए की होंगी, पर महाजन साहब ने जब वो क्लासेस मिस की तो वो उस टाइम भी अपने काम कर रहे थे एडवोकेट के ऑफिस में, उस टाइम भी वो काम करते थे। और उनकी लगातार ये जो मेहनत है वो आज भी उसमें कोई भी एफर्ट मैंने कम नहीं देखा। पिछले 15 साल से मैं उनके साथ जुड़ा हुआ हूँ, उनके साथ काम करने का मौका मिला है, चाहे वो एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कर रहा हूँ, चाहे वो एज ए प्रोफेशनल एडवोकेट उनको केसेस कराने के बाद उनको असिस्ट करने का भी मौका मिला है। तो इस तरह से तो उनको मैं जानता हूँ, मैंने कह सकता हूँ पूरे कॉन्फिडेंस के साथ कि मैंने उनसे ज्यादा ऑनेस्ट, उनसे ज्यादा हार्डवर्किंग और उनसे ज्यादा हम्बल व्यक्ति अपने जीवन में कभी नहीं देखा। एक और छोटी सी बात मैं बताऊंगा कि विशाल जी ने मुझे समय दिया है। महाजन साहब के ऑफिस के बारे में मुझे काफी जानकारी है, वहाँ के जो उनके जूनियर एसोसिएट्स रहे और हैं उन सबको भी मैं काफी अच्छे से जानता हूँ। मैं किसी का नाम नहीं लूंगा पर एक बात जरूर बताऊंगा। एक बार उनके ऑफिस में एक नए यंग एसोसिएट को, क्योंकि लोग प्राइवेट काम भी करते थे, तो किसी को कोई केस मिला होगा तो सर के पास गया कि सर काइंडली ये जरा केस है सिविल का, तो मुझे कोई खास समझ नहीं आया तो मेरी हेल्प कर दीजिएगा। तो सर बिजी होंगे, कह रहे ठीक है मैं बता दूंगा। वो फाइल छोड़ के वहां चला गया और जब वो सुबह ऑफिस आया तो उसकी पिटीशन तैयार थी सिविल रिवीजन की जो फाइल होनी थी। उस एडवोकेट ने वही पिटीशन हाईकोर्ट में फाइल कर दी और उसमें नोटिस ऑफ स्टे भी हो गया। तो मैं सर ये कहना चाहता हूं कि सर जितना एनकरेज करते हैं अपने स्टाफ हो, चाहे आज एजी ऑफिस में, चाहे उनके जूनियर्स हो और चाहे कोई भी, वॉक इन हिज ऑफिस एंड यू नीड असिस्टेंस एंड ही विल गाइड यू प्रॉपरली, एफिशिएंटली, और आपके भले के लिए कुछ भी करने के लिए हमेशा तैयार रहते हैं। महाजन साहब को सिविल का मास्टर इन हाईकोर्ट कहते हैं, मैंने सुना है कि बहुत सारे जजेस भी उनसे कई बार सलाह लेते हैं सिविल मैटर्स में। पर मैं उनके ऑफिस में गया तो रिकॉर्ड रूम भी देखने का मौका मिला, तो उनके क्लर्क ने से मैंने पूछा कि यार ये वाली फाइल्स कौन सी हैं, तो उसने बताया कि ये क्रिमिनल केसेस की फाइल्स हैं। तो ऐसा नहीं कि सर सिर्फ सिविल केसेस ही करते हैं, कम से कम भी मतलब hundreds of files were there of criminal appeals pending, which were in his office now are being taken care by his staff and his juniors, including his son Pratik Mahajan, who is also with us today. तो मुझे ये कुछ आपके साथ साझा करना था, ये शेयर करना था आपके साथ, ये थोड़ी सी बात, इसलिए मैंने आज के जो होस्ट है उनसे थोड़ा सा समय लिया था। धन्यवाद। धन्यवाद।
थैंक यू बदन जी, थैंक यू, आपने बहुत ज़्यादा अपना
सर वो बिल्कुल ठीक है जी, we totally agree to it. And now for a formal vote of thanks by Karan Bhardwaj ji. Mr. Karan Bhardwaj. Karan.
I must share with Mahajan Saab, as we always call him, and all friends. It's been 3 months with informal webinars. And if somebody asks me, Mahajan Saab, what is the most satisfying thing that I read till today in all our webinars? Then I would say a forward message from our listener. It's there on my screen. I'll read out. This meeting has reached a maximum of participants. Please try again later. This jam-packed house speaks volumes about our speaker. We had a very diverse set of listeners, viewers, comprising of lawyers from Jammu and Kashmir, Hyderabad, Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, and many people are still requesting, and the last login we had was 10 minutes back, probably when somebody after hearing Mahajan Saab must have logged out, another listener got a chance to log in and hear you. On behalf of Team Informal Webinar, I have been assigned this cherished responsibility to extend vote of thanks to Mahajan Saab. There are a lot of things for which we must thank Shri Baldev Raj Mahajan. So to begin with, sir, I thank you for being a benchmark of us saying simple living and high thinking. I thank you for being an inspiration and answer to every young lawyer who has a question in his mind that is hard work alone sufficient for being a successful lawyer? For being a big shining symbol of a possibility and a hope for a lawyer who's making humble beginnings in profession and is striving hard to make it big. I also must thank Mahajan Saab for giving new dimension and meaning to the constitutional office of Advocate General of a state. I still remember a picture in news in Dainik Bhaskar when you were sitting in assembly in your advocate's uniform and hearing a session. It gave me an immense pride and told me what a lawyer can do and where he can reach. And at last and not least, I thank him for accepting our invitation for speaking from the platform of informal webinar. We are honored, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you here, but that would not suffice. We'd really want you to come again. And in fact, your knowledge bank, we'll share your knowledge bank. Thank you so much, sir. Time to end the session. Thank you to all the participants from Team Informal Webinars. Hope to see you again. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.